Hello and welcome back to another episode of Doctor in a Bikini. I am Shannon Ahern, host of this podcast. And if you are new here, welcome. I'm so happy to have you. I know I've been meeting a new group of people lately. And if you have been listening, especially if you listened to last week, I appreciate you. Oh my gosh. Again, if you've been here for a little bit, you know that we have our new house and we've got the podcast room. And I'm just so excited to use it that we experimented with all this lighting so that way I can consistently do videos on YouTube. So, of course, I made Connor, my husband, be the guinea pig. You know, he's the extra spice and sarcasm in some of those episodes, if you haven't noticed, which I appreciate. But with that said, it was echoey as hell. So thank you so much for those of you who listened. And I know that some of you listened because a lot of you asked me about the Dancing with the Stars update. So I have not yet heard an official update. Well, I guess I heard one update since the last episode. So the person I'm in contact with, they are potentially, again, I don't want to jinx it, but I'm also about speaking things into existence. So I'm sharing it with the listeners because I feel like I want to share this journey with you all and it's big for me. And to be honest, the theme of today's podcast episode is about change and things being scary. And honestly, I just wanted to keep it real and come on here and tell you about how scared I've been lately. I mean, I have been so, as Connor likes to say, up my own anus. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it was the full moon. I don't know if it's just the end of the year and, you know, with that comes things coming to a close. You reflect on all that has happened in the past year and you create with the intention of moving forward, right? And if you're like me and say you're here because you're a little spiritual too, you know that the Virgo in me likes a good plan. The yellow aura in me loves a good plan. But, you know, my for those of you that don't speak spiritual, horoscope, yada yada, you'll have to forgive me because I do. And okay, major ADD brain, but I literally got a message. I'm going to be as vague as possible, but I got a message from somebody telling me that because I like angel numbers that I am worshiping the devil. So I was like, do I share that in the podcast? Do they listen to the podcast? But you know what? I am all about my intuition in times of change and when I feel scared. And I like to feel open and share all that with you all. And, you know, my feelings and my spirituality is sometimes how I make sense of this crazy world in competing, in my job, in my creative endeavors, in just life in general. So, anywho, as far as the Dancing with the Stars update, the most recent thing I heard from my contact is they are thinking of, so if you know showbiz or production at all, they don't necessarily move quickly, especially when they're literally actively airing the show. And if you didn't listen to last week's episode, I'm sorry if you're like, what Dancing with the Stars update? Just talk about the show. Not about the show. I am potentially getting sent on tour with them for 3 months, which means being away from my husband for 3 months, my home, which is super cool. And I have been manifesting that goal for probably the last like 5 years. I've always wanted that to have that opportunity to go. But anyways, they are thinking about sending me to LA so that way I can meet all of production and the dancers and things like that. Just to make sure that we jive. I don't know, I'm like nervous. This is what I'm talking about, guys. I'm like, I feel like I have so much energy right now. There's so much in the air. I guess that's the best way to explain it. Like I have no idea what the first 3 months of the year for my life are going to look like, which is super cool. Don't get me wrong. I was just saying to Connor before I hit record that I'm so excited and I want the answer to be yes, but I'm also terrified. And, you know, because it's just a lot of change. And I think I'm going to share a lot of stories from this week with you all because I think we all feel that, you know, when we're starting our journey in bodybuilding, when you're starting a new job, maybe you're pursuing something that you want to do because if you're like me, I feel like every year I'm not a big resolutions person necessarily, but I feel like I'm always analyzing if I'm on my life path or not and if I'm doing what feels authentic to me. And ironically, this year, the word was authenticity. And although I have no idea what lies ahead, I said to Connor, the only thing I know is that I feel like I'm doing the right thing. And the dialect, just to give you like some insight in our conversation before I hopped on here, I looked on him, I was like, why am I the way I am? And he's like, that's a hot start. And I was like, no, seriously, why is it, it's all good excitement, it's all good nerves, but I could just do the one job and I could just not have a hobby. I could just not, be concerned about producing my podcast that I love. I could, just totally drop all that I'm doing with my own business endeavors. I could easily drop all of that. But I said to him, but that's not me. And I just felt like that would resonate so much with people, is that we can get caught up so much in the hustle and bustle and, am I doing this right? Am I doing this enough? Am I going the right direction? Is my product valuable? Is what I'm doing noteworthy to people? Am I making a difference? And I think at the end of the day, if you ask yourself really, truly, are you doing what lines up with you? If the answer is yes, so what if you're doing it perfectly? Between the Dancing with the Stars, being hands up in the air if I don't know if I'm going to be on the tour bus for 3 months, between that and my goals with the podcast, my goals with Posing Prehab, my business school, I think there's a lot of change right now, and I want to, of course, do all of it perfectly, right? And that's just not how the cookie crumbles. You've probably noticed too, I haven't been pushing Posing Prehab posts as much, social media, because you have to give and take a little bit. And I wanted to give more to my existing clients. So I was like, all right, my social media ball is going to drop just a teeny bit because I really want to hone in on the people that are really invested in Posing Prehab, because super cool. A lot of people were invested in it, and a lot of people really wanted my help with even just training and, getting feedback on gym videos, because that's a part of the Posing Prehab. And it was so many of you, which is so freaking exciting. And that just like fuels my fire, but I also don't want to let anybody down. And I think that's so relatable to share on such a public platform, because again, I think all of you listening, there's something in your life right now that you really want to do this well. You really don't want to let someone down, or you really want to execute something that's important to you. So I wanted to come on here and share all of that. I meant to share all the fun updates first, but I just felt so inclined to share all of that. And it's so funny. My Sunday, it's been really, like, not rainy, but it's a teaser. It's like an Arizona special. It looks like it's supposed to rain outside, but it's totally not. But it feels rainy, cozy Sunday vibes, So I was going through deep cleaning. I had like my sage and my incense, and, I was just regathering, and if you can't tell, thinking about purpose today. And it's so funny. I found by accident, which I think nothing is by accident, but I found one of my favorite tarot decks. And let me tell you, because some of y'all that have listened to my first episodes in the beginning, you're like, I love that you had mentioned some of your readings and things. and you can see, referring to the message that I got earlier about apparently being a devil worshiper, why maybe I don't open all of my podcast episodes with tarot cards and things like that. Because, I recognize this is called Doctor in a Bikini, which means it's literally anything I want it to be about life. But it also means, it's not necessarily like a place that's like just for spirituality, It's really just a place for me to chat with my friends, if you can't tell. But I opened this deck, I found it, and let me tell you, it straight out jumped at me. And I'm going to ADD tell you a story about also why I was saging the place in like a minute here. But things have been cleaned. Things have been cleansed, all right? And these cards literally jumped out at me. And if you're a spiritual girly like me, or a guy, if you're a guy, because there's males who listen to this too, I'm going to read this to you, because now that I've given you the context, you can see why the card that jumped out at me, I was like, okay, I feel so justified sharing what I'm going to share with everyone today, because it was just too accurate to not share. So this is the Seasons of the Witch Yule Oracle. So, my little Christmas deck, because I am a Halloween girly, but I'm feeling extra spirited this year. So after this, I'm taking down my Halloween decorations and I might start decorating. Don't come at me if you're like, no, Shannon, wait for Thanksgiving, because usually I do, but I don't know. I just feel extra like spirited this year. So anyways, I'm going to read it for you. So this is the Mother Mary card. So funny, when I showed my brother-in-law this deck and he said Mother Mary, he's like, that sounds religious. And I was like, yeah, again, do you think that I'm worshiping the devil? No. like, what do you think I do in my spare time? Okay, so I'm just going to read a part of it. I don't want to bore you with the entire paragraph, but this is Mother Mary number 23. And it says, what is important is that you can call... Oh my gosh. I'm such a space cadet. That was one of them, but that's not the one I wanted to share with you. See, like I said, ADD brain. I even had it open to the right one and everything, but it's fine. Okay, not 23, 22, but I did get those consecutive ones. 22, it says, pulling this card is a positive sign that you should act upon this new project. Creative endeavors are supported this time, and you shouldn't be surprised if you find yourself seeing inspiration in unusual places. Perhaps you might wonder if your idea is worthy or if things will work out. Don't worry about that now. Pulling this card is confirmation that you're on the right path. You don't have to do everything all at once, just small steps, like asking a love interest for help. Which, like I said, I literally, before I got on this call or episode, I just asked Connor that. I said, am I doing the right thing? Like, am I doing too much? Am I being too much? And he was like, nope. You are doing everything that the Shannon I know would do. And this is what you love to do. This is what you want to do. Everything you do, it's because it's important to you. And you love helping people, and that's what you're doing. So, like I said, there was a lot on there. I don't want to bore you all. Unless you really want to know, then you can message me and I'll share you all the deets. But on to a fun story here, which if you get scared about stuff, maybe like fast forward a little bit. But I felt inclined to sage this place, not because it's an old home. It's literally a new build. But all sorts of like weird things have been happening again. Like I noticed that my phone, literally at 3 a.m, 2 nights in a row, we sleep to rain sounds, right? Oh my God, it kept stopping only at 3 something in the morning, and I would roll over because I was awake like to the sound of it getting shut off, which... so weird, but rolled over and I was like, why is it so silent? Turned over, put it back on, rolled back over, went to sleep. I kid you not, I heard it again in my sleep. It turned off and I was like, what in the world? The night before that, our TV turned on as we were falling asleep. And I was like, don't like that. But the Spotify thing, I was like, okay, maybe my phone, like I need to update the app. It's done that to me before in the past. The TV, I was like, it's on the nightstand. Maybe like when I reached for my water, it like nudged the remote perfectly on the power button. I don't know. I try to be as logical as I can. But then when it happened again, so like I said, 2 nights in a row, I updated the Spotify app. So all was good there. But then literally yesterday, we were gone all day. Come home, it's nighttime, and I'm unloading all these really cool, like we went thrifting all day, unloading all these cool finds. One of them including almost a full-length mirror that we got at Goodwill. So I'm hauling this thing around the corner from the garage towards the posing podcast room. I stopped dead in my tracks with this heavy-ass mirror because the entire light is illuminated this like bright blue light. And I was like, excuse me. No. I just bought this brand new lighting for last week's episode with Connor, and it takes multiple presses on the power button to get to a shade of light. So there's the obnoxiously cold neon light, the kind that when the person with the high beams on behind you on the road, You're like, oh my God, please turn off those lights. There's that light feature. That's the light that was on in the hallway. But that's not the first light. When you turn it on, it's supposed to be like a warm light. Then it goes to a yellow light. Then it goes to the obnoxiously bright blue light. So not only was it on, but the remote had to have been pressed 3 times, which again, don't like that. I was like, I didn't touch anything in that room today. So, but I think the logical explanation here, I looked at the clock and it was so weird. Only one of our ovens, like the time was flashing. So I'm like, maybe the power went off. I don't know. And today I can confirm when I plugged in the lamp to another outlet and it was off. But when I plugged it into another outlet, it apparently immediately turns on. So don't have an explanation about how it got to the third light. But needless to say, that is what brought me today to saging and self-reflecting and thinking about all the things. I don't think it's anything bad. It's just, again, sorry. I know this isn't the point of this podcast, but if you signed up here for a while, you know that this isn't just about bodybuilding. It's about life. It's about who you're listening to every week. Because I know when I'm the listener, I personally just like to hear from the person sometimes. But I promise, there will be tidbits about life. So we're going to circle back to change and all that. But in the meantime, everything feels cleansed. Everything feels good. That just hasn't happened in a long time. And I used to have that stuff happen to us all the time in the apartment. So I'll let you know. So I'll circle back next week about Dancing with the Stars updates, spooky, scary updates. Maybe, maybe the spirits will be like, oh, that was just a funny little Halloween haha trick. And then now that it's, I don't know, coming up on Christmas vibes, maybe it'll just be a friendly little gingerbread ghost. I don't know. But in other less spooky news, something else that made me think about today's theme of the podcast was Friday. So Friday is usually my day where I help all of my established posing prehab clients. And again, if you're new here, posing prehab, it's not necessarily just posing goals. Most of them, yes, it's like between my dance background and my physical therapy background. My goal is to address things like, nailing your angles on stage or fixing aches and pains that you notice. And I know that posing is meant to be uncomfortable, but your body knows, like when something's just uncomfortable versus like, hey, this is keeping me from hitting the pose, or hey, I've just never been flexible with this, so I need your help. But it's also been helpful for things like, I would like a specific recovery routine, or here's my medical history, my injury history. I want some help on maintaining this or improving this or fixing that. And some people will even say, hey, I'm noticing pain with this specific activity in my daily life. Maybe I can't do squats without my knees hurting, or I can't hip thrust more than X amount of pounds because my back hurts. Like any and all of those types of complaints or goals is what posing prehab is for. So I bring the best of both worlds between the medical knowledge, but then also the street experience, if you will, of being an active competitor, being a dancer. So I really understand movement and flow. But then as the healthcare provider, I understand how to really analyze movement. So side note there, but Fridays are usually my days where I work with those clients. And this Friday, it was so fun because I got to treat some in person, which was super cool. And Friday, I feel like it was just such a reminder of purpose. And yes, it started with my clients too, because there was a lot that I got to really help her with in person, which was super fun. But also unexpectedly, like I said, I don't think the universe sends us things for an accident. I think that there's always a takeaway between the people we interact with that day, the things that upset us, like when I'm in traffic, I'm like, okay, I'm being tested for patience right now. Or, maybe you complimented somebody, like you were meant to compliment them that day. Maybe they needed it. Or whoever's in your office and they're your client or your patient that day. I firmly believe that you were sent to them or vice versa for a reason. So this particular story, I feel like, honestly, it was both. I think she was sent to me for a reason of validation of purpose and helping people and realizing for me, or maybe reassuring myself with everything I gave you earlier, as far as being scared and questioning things and am I doing the right thing. I feel like she was sent to me to show me, yes, these are things that you love helping with. These are the people you're supposed to help. And for her, I think that she needed somebody in her office that day to tell her to do the things she's been scared of. So, ironically, it was my, women's exam that I have been putting off for way, 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 way too long. Like, I think it's maybe been like 4 years. So Connor has been at me to get this done. So finally I did, and it was a fluke that I was able to get put with her. Like, it happened while I was on the phone with them, like, oh, hey, actually this just became available. So this was my first time with a midwife, and I felt so dumb. I asked the person scheduling, because she said, is it okay that you're with a midwife? And I said, sure. Stupid question, but what's the main difference? Because I just genuinely don't know. I can tell you about the realm of physical therapy, but I can't tell you, what the midwife expectations will be versus the OB and like an annual follow-up. Anyways, not important to the story. Point being, someone that I randomly got put with, quote, randomly, right? Go in there, and she is immediately just such a fun ball of energy. I just loved her instantly. Such a good example for people that, how we always say the people that light up a room, they never realize that they light up a room, right? They're never the ones that think of themselves like, wow, I'm amazing. Everyone loves me. I bring such positivity into the room. I met her and I was like, oh my God, I totally get it. Because I think the people that love us tell us those nice things all the time. And we're always working on seeing ourselves in that same light. Again, big proponent on big themes in our day, right? I think that we get shown those things as like, oh, maybe I need to do better at viewing myself the way I can view this person. So, point being, painting you the picture. Super, super nice lady, larger than life, very compassionate. You can tell right away that she really cares about the person in front of her. And she's asking me all of the usual annual exams. And one of them was, how often a week do you work out? And I said, oh, it's like, the CrossFitter trying to tell them about how they do CrossFit. Except I get all bashful. I was like, oh, well, this time of year it's like slightly different, but pretty much year round I work out consistently because I do bodybuilding shows. And I don't know why I'm working on saying it as just a fact, but I just feel like I say it as like it happens to be a small reality, and then I just kind of move on, right? Oh my gosh. She looked at me like it was, again, a sign from God himself, because she goes, oh my God. She's like, I have been wanting to do that so badly. And she just opened up to me. And, she tells me how her 50th birthday is coming up in a couple months, and how as her birthday is coming up, she's reflecting, just like I said to you at the beginning of this episode, she's reflecting on what she has accomplished so much this year. And she's just sharing to me about her feelings about where she's at in life and how she feels about herself. And if you weren't there, you might be like, oh my gosh, like, how did this dialogue just happen between you and a medical provider? Like, is that okay? But for me, it was like, I loved that she felt so comfortable that she could identify that she could share all that with me, because immediately I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And she goes, I would love to talk with you after your appointment, about everything. And again, this has never happened before in a medical appointment, but she just shared so much because I feel like she thought she could about her life. And to me, it felt so good, and it was reassuring, because I was like, yes, this is exactly what I want to do. I want to be that resource for people that are wanting to get into bodybuilding. Maybe they're actively doing bodybuilding and they want help on the daily life lessons of navigating, an off season, or starting back up again, or, reversing appropriately, losing weight, finding a different coach, working with the emotional struggles of competing, the fact that we never really reach a true destination, and that's okay. It might be enough to drive us wild because we never feel like we're, achieving that specific goal, but breaking it up into smaller goals. And it's just, I feel like I'm going on a tangent here, but it was such a cool sign from the universe for her because she had been looking for a sign that she should compete, looking for somewhere to start, looking for someone to talk to, but she just didn't know anybody. And for me to be able to give her some resources and some names, obviously the podcast, because yes, I'm partially biased, but I gave her a bunch of resources. And then for me, because like I told you, the week I had and just the questions that I was asking myself of like, what am I doing? Am I doing it good enough? What is my purpose? Am I doing too much? And I just thought it was so relatable to share on here. I know it's a lot about me and what I'm experiencing, but I think, like I said, we are all always asking ourselves those questions at the end of the day, right? At least subconsciously, especially when we look at the year behind us and what's to come. You know, it's a big time of year. Lots of changes are happening. We know that from all the ads and the texts and things like that where we're getting. And with the new year in general, it just feels like new goals immediately come to fruition just in the world. And anyways, I wanted to share that, and I'm going to leave a quote with you too, because if all the stories I gave you between the midwife and my own struggles and just doing things that are scary and intimidating, I hope that you know that it's okay if you don't know what your plans are for this upcoming year. If maybe this season didn't go according to plan. Maybe you have no idea if you're ever going to compete again. Maybe you're like the midwife that I had and you're, quote, older and you're like, should I start? You know, will I be competitive? Where should I start? Which I have an episode titled How to Start Competing if you scroll down. I think the biggest message is just like an earlier message I did before in one of my first few episodes. If your ego feels threatened, and I guess to define ego, that's like our survival. That's our resistance to change. That's our resistance to changing the job, resistance to starting, competing, doing things that are scary and new. If you feel uneasy, if you feel nervous, scared, wondering if you're doing too much, that probably means that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You know, if something feels comfy, cozy, like I said, there's that ounce of me, ounce, that said to Connor, well, if I don't get Dancing with the Stars, then I guess the only sense of relief is that nothing changes and that's predictable. And I thought, man, what a cop-out is that? Like, heck no, I want to go on tour. I want it to happen. I want the whole 3 months away. Is that scary as hell? Yes. Will I still be competing and prepping? Yep. Will I continue with the podcast? You betcha. Will I continue with posing prehab? Mm-hmm. Am I going to vlog more? Yup. Does that scare the living shit out of me? And is there that underlying question of, can I do it all? And if you, the listener, said the exact same dialogue to me of, Shannon, can I do that all? I would tell you absolutely. And finally, there was this quote I saw just in spirit of everything I said. And you can apply that to whatever you're going through in your own life, because obviously I don't know who's listening, but this quote that I heard in my business program, it's by Tony Robbins. It says, the biggest thing that will hold you back is your own nature. And I saved that because I was like, oh my God, that is so accurate. Anytime that we're resisting change or something isn't, whether it's that 10 pounds that you can't lose, or maybe it's you keep bouncing back in your diet. Maybe you just feel like you can't reverse the same way. Maybe you're not compliant with all your check-ins, or you can't find a coach that aligns with you. Maybe you need to take a step back and say, is this my own nature that is self-sabotaging me? Am I sabotaging my goals because deep down my ego is resisting change? And I think for a lot of us, the answer is probably yes at some points. So I hope that everything I shared with you today, I feel like that was such a fast episode, but I just had so much to talk about and I was just so excited and I had to catch my breath a couple times, but I hope that resonates with you somehow, especially as we're entering this big pivotal part of the year. I think the whole year we should always be analyzing where we're at, taking a quick temperature check of our goals and our purpose, but I feel like that's about to get amplified. So try to remember the points I said today and ask yourself, are you resisting the change, or are you embracing the change? Because it's okay to live in the fear. Like I said, talking about y'all, I kind of feel better, but I'm still terrified. And I think, despite me being terrified, it's the right thing to do. And I don't know. I'm rambling, but I would love it, actually. Whoever's listening, if you could share with me something that you are working towards, something that you're hoping for. I'm talking about like your wildest ambitions. Maybe it's getting your pro card. Maybe you're opening a studio. Maybe you're quitting your job and starting a whole other profession. And I want to share those things. Like, I'll keep it anonymous for you, but share with me what you're working on, what you think those goals are, or better yet, reflect on the things that you're proud of that you've done this year and send those to me. But otherwise, I think I am out of breath, literally, and I'm going to sign off for the week. Like I said, I appreciate you all for listening and, following up about some of those scary things like the Dancing with the Stars update and giving me feedback on the episodes. I love all of the feedback I've gotten with posing prehab. Thank you for sharing and applying. It's such a fun process so far, and I'm just happy to be here. So I hope that y'all have a great week, and I can't wait to hear those stories. I'll talk to you later. Bye, guys.